I'm pleased to invite Shen Liow from the Marine Stewardship Council to come and join us and talk about digitisation of seafood supply chains from the perspective of an eco-label certification. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's such a pleasure to be here, and hopefully the slide work. My name is Shen Liow. I am the Senior Supply Chain Program Manager for the Marine Stewardship Council, so I oversee the MSC Chain of Custody program operation globally. And I'm very lucky today to be joined by my colleagues, Marguerite and Yona, and a plug that we are also doing a panel tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Nusantara, room 2. So please still join us and stick with us. And it is a pleasure, I think, to address all of you from an eco-certification scheme as we work with sustainable fisheries to get them serving the market sustainable seafood. But we also bring with us 25 years of experience in operating a sustainable seafood assurance program as well. So, who is the MSC, the Marine Stewardship Council? We are an international non-for-profit organization, and we set up ourselves to reverse overfishing. This is recognizing 25 years ago before a lack of consistent assessment management system in recognizing sustainable fisheries assessment. So the MSC has set up an international standard consistent with various international norms, so the FAO Code of Conduct for Responsible Fishing. We are also aligned with various ISO standards, and we are recognized by the Global Sustainable Seafood Initiative, GSSI. So we have 3 core products, I would say. So the MSC Fisheries Standard, this is a wild capture certification program, regardless of the fisheries operating geography, location, or scale. This recognizes and evaluates fisheries for their targeted stock sustainability and the environmental impact and the management system of their harvesting activity. We also work with the Aquaculture Stewardship Council, ASC, to jointly develop a sustainable and responsible seaweed production. And finally, the MSC Chain of Custody COC standard that underpins and as a backbone to ensure that certified fishery or aquaculture, they are traceable all the way along the supply chain, and that we could trace it back to a certified sustainable source. So this is the backbone to us making sustainability claim. We will be focusing a lot more on the chain of custody program shortly. So what about our role, what we do, and this is a circular theory of change of the MSC. We use our eco-label, so this blue logo at the bottom right here, and our standards and our certification program to recognize and reward sustainable fisheries practices. And we do this by influencing the market, raising public awareness for sustainable fishing, using retailers and brands to drive sustainability demand and desire for the MSC labeled seafood, and as a result, accelerating supply chain actors and hopefully fisheries in increasing and improving their sustainability practice, and over time achieving the MSC certification for sustainable fishing as well as traceable seafood. So today, we've been very fortunate to reach 672 fisheries around the world engaging in the program. This is an estimate of 19% or 15 million tons of global wild capture landing for seafood. So once these fisheries or wild capture seafood is landed, they're being handled by over 55,000 of supply chain business entities ready to process, trade, and package products. And this roughly represents around over 8,000 annual chain of custody standard audit that we will delve deeper into later. So we also work around the world with independent certification bodies. So MSC don't do the audit ourselves. We set the standard, and there are 26 accredited certification bodies representing over 400, 500 chain of custody auditors that are working with us, with the businesses, to enable the maintenance of these annual surveillance that we're talking about. And with the global support and network, we're so proud, and it's a testament of the industry support. We're now having 20,000 or more labeled MSC products on shelves in 66 countries around the world, and representing retail value of $12.4 billion US. So that's a little photo of our eco-label on our skipjack tuna can that we're showing there, the MSC labeled. So from the MSC chain of custody certification perspective, how does it work? So this is an outcome-based and segregation-based chain of custody standard, and underpinned by 5 core principles and 23 further criteria. So the first, for buyers to be able to handle certified product, they need to demonstrate that they purchase from certified supplier. Because it's segregation-based, we need to ensure that products labeled are always identifiable by MSC species, and that they're always segregated from non-certified species. They need to be traceable, volume reconciled, good record keeping, as well as management system, effectively demonstrating that they're able to apply and conform to these standard principles. So chain of custody certification by the MSC is required by businesses that take legal ownership of products. So whether you're fisheries or processors, as soon as product come into the supply chain, we require chain of custody certification up until the product turning into a retail packed product. So businesses that wish to participate in trading the MSC or handling the MSC product, they will be evolving their business management system to demonstrate conformance to the standard, and these are independently verified through auditing by the accredited certification bodies that we talked about earlier. So these chain of custody audits are risk-based. They're typically on-site and on an annual surveillance basis. We've also built in product sampling, so these are species analysis through DNA technology, or we are also evolving other tracing technology as well. And we've also built in unannounced and short notice audits. As you imagined, we're working globally, and we have various distributions of the MSC certificated entities, and these is just a representation of the sort of activities along the global supply chain for the MSC. So the largest certificated activities for chain of custody is trading, followed by storage and secondary processing. In terms of the largest certificated chain of custody country, China being the first, followed by US and France. So in the color bars, I highlighted secondary processing, packing, repacking, primary processing, and onwards contract processing and subcontracting. These are higher risk activities based on our certification requirements that we believe, due to their operation complexity and risk, they would be desire or demand greater audit requirements. So we have, for example, Spain being the first largest certified primary processing nation, followed by China, the US, and you see China appearing again as the largest certificated contract processor. So in terms of secondary processing, we've seen Spain again topping that, and some more European countries. So France, Germany, Netherlands, they might be re-importing some of the MSC product for secondary processing, value-add activity, and packaging. I also wanted to showcase our global distribution, and in this case, as we consider our MSC supply chain journey towards digitization, especially over the pandemic period, it really has accelerated the MSC's consideration in remote auditing. So this has on average been the greatest learning that we have, as well as the greatest acceleration on requirement for remote auditing. So in this map here, it is a representation of our global auditing during the COVID pandemic period of March 2020 to September 2022, during the peak pandemic period. And we've seen our audit, which I mentioned for chain of custody, typically on-site. We have seen a shift towards more remote audit, and the countries where there are more remote audit than on-site have been highlighted in blue color. Orange are countries where there are more on-site audit versus remote. In green are countries with equal distribution, and then in gray are countries that we don't yet have a chain of custody certification holder. During this process, as we experience ourselves, COVID-19 disrupted global supply chain. Businesses had to reconnect our own network. But we also found the same in the MSC oversight experience. Overnight, we lost oversight on-site, on the ground, and we had to rapidly evolve, adapt our system in maintaining oversight. But how did we do that? So MSC responded since February 2020 with various remote auditing guidelines and continue to issue iterations of these guidelines to support our global auditing to ensure consistency regardless of their geography distribution. But we have seen, for example, we talked about activity of primary processing, China and the US being some of the highest certificated nations. But we've also seen in the US, for example, they have mostly, and they are the most remote audited country as opposed to China being the most on-site audited country, for example. So behind the scene, we have been monitoring these COVID auditing trends from the MSC's perspective, and also recognizing, gosh, like we have not done enough in our data collection or our data analysis and understanding what can we do in response to remote auditing as well. So in 2019, for example, we've only started to catalog or bringing in data collection for audit location, because in default, we would usually be on site. So during COVID period, 2020 towards 2022, we have seen certainly a huge jump for remote audit, almost over 50%, 55, 58. But this is now coming up with more on-site audit instead. So we also spoke earlier about some of the high-risk activity. While over time, we have seen on-site audit returning, but we have also had a huge lot of learning from an assurance program perspective, how to ensure effective remote auditing, but generally also learning from what can we utilize as businesses digitize, what can we do as a certification program to recognize some of these new technology in evolving our auditing system. What we've observed, in addition to what the larger society experienced from COVID, we've seen, for example, businesses not been audited on-site for multiple years. If you are a processor, we need to follow your fish. We need to know what you show on your video camera is all the product that you handled. So it's been a challenge for auditor to not be able to get on-site, to also be able to have a realistic auditing experience. We've also seen huge drop out of audit personnel. We have a huge reduction of auditors not being able to return to work. And so the audit scheduling had been delayed. The typical on-site annual surveillance had been lengthened, so the surveillance interval had been increased. We've also seen voluntary cancellation of certification due to business priority changes. But what we've also observed is while getting on-site, we are able to really observe the situation. Auditors have greater confidence in raising any findings, and often findings they're able to make a greater grading as well. So for example, an issue may have been major nonconformity if detected on-site, but remote through video conferencing audit, they may only have the confidence to be able to raise it as a minor. So we certainly had observed more minor audit during COVID period in comparison to other sort of normal period where more on-site audit take place. Post-pandemic, we're now coming to continuing to maintain and monitor oversight still, and we've seen also an increase in conformance performance against our standards. So this isn't just certificated businesses' conformance to the standards, but also our certification body on their performance as well in conforming to our audit requirements. Here I wanted to summarize this journey that the MSC had been from our chain of custody program perspective on our digitization journey, and there's still a long road ahead, and this is why we're here, and we're so eager to learn from you and to have your feedback to continue to guide us in the journey that we're traveling towards. So before 2023, it's largely a data repository of all our global chain of custody audit. These are locked away in Excel, PDF audit reports. We're not able to effectively analyze data to help inform policy development. So it's been 2 years of us developing a digital supply chain audit platform, and we're really excited in 2 weeks' time. We will be switching over to a globally digital auditing. So our over 55,000 certificated sites, all their annual audit will eventually be held on an online platform that we could directly pull and have quicker response to their audit performance and audit findings. So this is a huge step indeed, and we're really nervous. So 2 weeks' time, we will be switching off the old system, and around the world, even our team here, we're incredibly nervous, and there's a lot of capacity building. And we're also having to build confidence in our auditor too. Not all of them are young and data savvy, so it's a huge learning curve for the MSC. And we're also realizing a lot of our data platforms are fragmented, so we have to centralize it. And we're working towards 2030, not only digitizing the audit platform, but also supporting businesses, so our certificate holder on this digitization journey as well. So systems that businesses are using, how do we guide them from paper-based towards digitization, and how do we help them in phasing into digitization without excluding them in the process, as supply chain connect many entities. So when the MSC think about digitization, we're looking at end-to-end engagement of supply chain businesses as well. So this is our greatest challenge for the organization. So from managing a certification scheme, from a public perspective, we manage 2 main databases. So we have registry of chain of custody certificate holders. So any buyers that wish to validate the MSC supplier credential, do they have the species in their certificate? Do they have ongoing continuity to maintain certification? So we have this public find a supplier directory, which is our authoritative source of truth. And in the STAR is the digital supply chain audit platform that we've spoken about, that we're moving into very soon. But there's a lot more work behind the scene in ensuring the assurance of the program quality, auditing quality, certified business quality as well. So we do a lot of work in our performance analytics, and we handle complaints, especially post-pandemic. There's a lot of complaints of breakage in supply chain, breakage in chain of custody. We had to do investigations. So how do we digitize these processes and better using these information to guide greater risk-based auditing, supply chain monitoring approach? So we are also evolving our product testing technology, looking at trace element, perhaps stable isotope technology as well, to hopefully guide us in not only doing trace back mass balance, but we're also able to authenticate product species or product provenance, for example. So whatever that is claimed on product packaging, we could be sure that it is meeting that claim. There's a lot more policy development, and we're really excited to embark on the chain of custody program review that we've currently looking for stakeholder feedback. So we want to recognize the evolution and the global trend towards digitization. Some of the key words that we've been hearing about, key data elements, we want to be able to integrate those, collaborate and align with many of your initiatives as well. There are at-sea auditing that remain challenging. How do we address that? What can we integrate from a remote surveillance perspective, and how do we then perhaps reduce some of our audit costs and time, but bring in more real-time and risk-based verification activity? And finally, there's also that assurance piece behind the scenes. So this is a registry, but also ongoing qualification maintenance of our global certification bodies and their auditing performance as well. So these are the various databases and systems that the MSC think about beyond the one-on-one businesses system in digitizing and traceability. In summary, I in fact wanted to quote Hugh Thomas yesterday from Pew. Technology isn't the silver bullet or solution, it is the enabler of your intent. So from our perspective, digitization is also not the immediate solution. We need to understand what is being digitized and how is it yielding result and resolving risk and helping to tighten up assurance across the supply chain. So we're proactively looking at not only collaboration with yourselves, but also ensuring that we built a pathway for our certificate holder across the supply chain, that there's no one actor being left behind, and especially chain of custody or our supply chain that's only as strong as the weakest link. So we need to make sure when we look into solutions that we're bringing the entire chain with us. And the MSC is proactively looking at solutions that complement existing businesses' systems as well. So we will not be duplicating, and we will be proactively considering your proposals. With that, I'd like to thank you and really wanted to invite feedback across the next few days as well to getting to know your work. And that's it from me. Thank you very much.